we all know how short life is. I mean, the mortality rate is still tracking at 100% the last time I checked. And even though this life is short, we still don't want it to suck. This podcast is all about tools and insights from psychology, philosophy, and spirituality to help this journey suck less. In fact, we may even learn how to embrace the life we have while creating the life that we want. My name is Morgan, and this is the PS We Expire podcast. I'm so glad you're here. There's this rule in content creation that you're not supposed to point out when you've been gone for a while. So, if you're posting a reel or in your stories or a podcast episode, you're not supposed to alert people to the fact that you have been MIA for a little while, because number one, people probably don't really notice. Number two, maybe people don't even really care. But why I'm telling you that I have not been sharing podcast episodes consistently pretty much since the end of January, right after I hit the 1 year mark of releasing a podcast episode every single week for an entire year. I'm so proud of myself. But I'm telling you this because it is somewhat related to what I'm talking about today. So before I dive into this episode on stuckness, what it's like to be stuck, I just will tell you what's happening in my life right now. First things first, I am in my last 2 weeks, I guess technically last week and then a finals week, to get my associate's degree from the college here before I take the summer off and then start at Portland State University as part of their honors college program. So proud of myself for that, to be working towards my bachelor's in psychology and with a minor in neuroscience. So I have been, oh man, this last term is really kicking my butt. And I had to take, so one of the classes that I'm taking is a health class with a PE co-requisite. And this week the assignment was all about stress, and we had to take this little quiz to see how stressed we really are. And you click yes or no on life events that have happened in the last 12 months. And at the end of the quiz, it was oh, you are off the charts stressed because of the amount of changes and things going on in life. And I think maybe some of you can relate to this, that I can really get down on myself when I don't have the same amount of energy or motivation or drive to do the things that I used to do, especially if the activity is something that I really care about and really like. For example, doing this podcast. But we have to take into account all the other pulls on our attention and our energy. And sometimes you just cannot continue to do things the way that you've done them. And this does contribute sometimes to a feeling of stuckness when you're doing less than you feel like you should be doing, I guess, or less than you are doing compared to yourself, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. So I will address this a little bit in this stuckness episode, but that's the first thing that's kind of going on. And the second thing, I shared about this to my email list, which FYI, if you're not part of my email list yet, I'm on this creative kind of binge right now, sending out a bunch of emails. So if you want to get on my list, you can go morganmotsinger.com/subscribe and get the emails from me, whether they're weekly or daily or annually. It kind of depends on how things are going. But anyway, what I shared in there is that we just celebrated Annie's would have been 16th birthday, which is so weird. It's so weird to be a mother who would have had a 16-year-old daughter. It still feels weird to not know how to talk about that, I guess. She passed away when she was 14. And so when I talk about her, I don't know if I'm supposed to, whatever, say she's 14 or she's 16 or she would have been 16. But then I, have to get in a conversation about why isn't she 16 and tell people that she died, and don't always want to get into that conversation with folks. But yes, celebrated her 16th birthday. And we have this beautiful tradition that we started last year. So the first birthday of hers after she passed away, of going to this really beautiful island up off the coast of Washington as part of the San Juan Islands called Orcas Island, which is not Doesn't have anything to do with orcas, like the orca whales. Was actually named after the man who discovered it. Not the first time, I'm sure. But anyway, we go and spend her birthday up there, just our little 4-person unit family. And this year I made sure that I brought a box cake and candles and a lighter and frosting, and the kids and I made birthday cake and frosted it and put 16 candles in the cake and sang happy birthday to Annie. And yeah, just had a really down, relaxing, unplugged trip up there. We were up there for 4 days. It was absolutely beautiful. So that's kind of what's going on in my life right now. Apart from, kids winding down for the school year and gearing up for summer and fun trips this summer. And I have a lot of things that I'm really excited about over the months that I will be out of school and the kids will be out of school. So I feel pretty pumped about that. But anyway, today, this episode is about stuckness, being stuck. And when I was thinking about this topic, I thought about how many times when we are investigating topics like this, we really want like a 1, 2, 3 step of how to solve whatever the problem is. So I was originally thinking about, here are the 4 ways to get unstuck, and realized that that's not really the first place to start. The first place to start is to examine your relationship with stuckness. What exactly is being stuck? What does that feel like? What does it mean in my life? What things in my life do I actually feel stuck in? Instead of just this general feeling of being stuck, can I get really specific and unpack this and figure out what my feeling is towards being stuck? So instead of 4 steps how to get unstuck or how to never be stuck again, which is total BS, because we go through these cycles in our life. Instead, I have 7 ways to think about stuckness differently. 7 ways to think about stuckness differently. Number 1, and these are all pretty short, and I'm not going to, give you a test at the end to make sure that you paid attention to all 7 of them, but hopefully 1 or 2 of them will really resonate with you and change for the better your relationship with stuckness or being stuck. So number 1 is, can you let yourself be stuck for now? My first feeling when I feel stuck is, how the hell do I get out of this as quickly as possible? How do I get out of this? And I kind of think of like quicksand. It's like how I can feel myself sinking, or I can feel myself not moving. It feels weighted. Can I just let myself be stuck for now? And just, what does this feel like? And number 2 goes perfectly hand in hand with this is, can you believe that how you feel right now, this feeling of stuckness, is not forever? However you feel, if you feel stuck in your job, if you feel stuck in your relationship, if you feel stuck in a creative rut, can you just allow yourself to remember that this cycle does not last forever? Can you remember a time when you didn't feel stuck and believe that you will feel not stuck again? Can you believe it's not forever? Number 3, can you make a small change, even if it's unrelated to the area that you feel stuck in? Sometimes I know this is a really, really bizarre reality, and it doesn't seem like this would work, but often it does. When you feel stuck in one area, if you make a tiny change in an area that doesn't seem like it has anything to do with the area that you feel stuck in, if you can develop a new habit, if you can break an old habit, if you can bust yourself out of your normal routines, sometimes that will give you some clarity and insight into how to solve for the stuckness in the other area of your life. It also is a great way to build your confidence to start to move yourself out of stuckness if you're staying there for reasons like you don't feel like you deserve to be out of stuckness, whatever it is that you're stuck in. And the other part of this is, are you feeling paralyzed because you're trying to change too much too fast? one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard when it comes to things like habit formation is to not take too big of a bite. Don't try and do this huge shift in your lifestyle. So like if you decide that you are going to start running, don't make a plan to run a marathon by the end of the month. You got to work up to it. You take little tiny baby steps. And the first little baby step, if you're trying to become someone who runs, is maybe going for a 1 minute run. And I know that that sounds ridiculous. Like, how does that even make a difference? But what you're doing is you're trying to rewire patterns that have been in place for a really long time. And so doing these little incremental shifts and keeping your commitments to yourself in one area trickles down into another area. One area that I have seen this most work together is like when I am exercising regularly, I just eat better. I eat foods that are more energizing to me, that I feel better when I eat, that don't contribute to, like a lot of bloating or gas or joint pain or whatever. And those two things are not necessarily correlated, but they are connected enough that it's like when I'm making a positive change in one area of my life, there's this beautiful trickle down effect. It impacts your sleep, it impacts how you feel about yourself, et cetera, et cetera. And so whatever you happen to feel stuck in can be positively impacted by making a tiny incremental change in some other area of your life. Number four, number four, you're stuck. And can you actually do something about it, but you're afraid? Think about the thing that you feel stuck in right now. Maybe there's some, I don't know, relationship turmoil. Maybe there's a friendship that you need to reevaluate. Maybe there's a relationship fracture with a family member that needs to be addressed. Maybe you're being taken advantage of at work, or maybe you are doing more for your clients than what was agreed upon. Any number of these things. Do you actually know in your gut what needs to be done to unstick you, to help you be unstuck, but you're afraid to do it? Now, just because you can figure out what it is that you're afraid of doesn't mean that you have to do anything differently. Doesn't mean that you actually have to do that. But when you return the power to yourself of the choice and you stop being a victim of your circumstances, this is how things are going to change for you. Because the feeling then isn't, I'm stuck because this is happening, something is happening to me outside my control. It's more of like, I'm actually choosing to continue to be here for some reason. And that's okay if you need to be there right now. But if you actually know what needs to happen to get unstuck, just admit that to yourself. And you can choose whether or not you want to do that right now, or you need to postpone it, or you need to do it never. But continuing to feel like a victim of whatever circumstance you're in contributes to a feeling of helplessness and stuckness. That was number 4, not number 2. Number 5. Is it not so much that you're stuck as it is something that you need to say that's stuck? I started to think about this one when I was considering where I feel what stuckness feels like. And I already gave the illustration of like stepping into quicksand, where it feels like there's no forward momentum anymore. It feels very heavy and weighty. But another feeling that comes up for me when I think about stuckness is like this, something that's stuck in my throat. And usually for me, what gets stuck in my throat is anger. Because I don't feel like I am allowed to or supposed to express that anger. So it gets stuck right here. And it just feels like a lump in my throat. It feels like stuck in my throat. And that's a pretty good indication to me when I feel that way, that there's something that needs to be said that isn't being said. And it may not be for anybody else's benefit except for my own. Like it may not have to do with anybody else, but if there's something that's happening in me that's getting stuck right here, I need to be able to express it some way or another. So that's another way that you can think differently about stuckness. Where are you feeling it in your body? And what is that telling you? What is that sensation telling you? Get familiar and comfortable with that sensation in your body and understand how to move it, how to move the stuckness out of your body, because sometimes that even will resolve that general sense of being stuck. Okay, number 6. And this ties back into number 4 a little bit. So number 4 was, can you actually do something but you're afraid? So if you know what the stuckness is being caused by, but you're afraid to do anything about it. And number 6, do you know how to get unstuck, but you don't feel like you can? One of the things that I really despise about so much of the self-help and self-improvement and even some of like the spirituality conversations is this idea that it's all about mindset. It's all about manifestation. It's all about changing your perspective or reframing things or adjusting adjusting the way that you look at circumstances. On one hand, yeah, absolutely. That is a really powerful way to move through the world, is when you pay attention to those things. And also, there are very real circumstances that play a part in why we are where we are. There are very real circumstances that cannot be changed by your mindset. There are very real pulls on your time and your energy that even if you are choosing to be in those circumstances, they really do bear a heavy weight of responsibility and can contribute to you feeling stuck. And I guess what I want to point out here is that changing your mindset is still a really important and powerful option. But also to understand that sometimes it does require changing your circumstances too. And sometimes, because of whatever your circumstances are, you just choose to continue to be in it for now, because that's what makes the most sense in the big picture, so that you will allow yourself to continue to be stuck because you recognize either the benefit or the importance or the practicalities of staying where you're at right now. And that's totally okay too. And number 7, here's a really big one. Do you feel stuck because you're comparing yourself to others? I think this is a huge one, that it is really easy to be discontent with our current circumstances when we're constantly paying attention to what we feel like we don't have. And I could, talk about all the things that we know about social media and people only showing the highlight reel, which I don't actually think is true. I see a lot of vulnerability and authenticity on social media in the midst of, all sorts of people showing lives that aren't actually theirs, that they're not actually living. But I do think that this is still really important, that everything that you see of someone else's life is still just a fraction of what is actually happening in the life that even is observable by you. Not to mention the inner world of that person or that family or that business or whatever. You're not able to see everything that's happening. And so oftentimes we feel stuck in our own circumstances because we're just looking at other people and thinking that they have it so good. Not recognizing that, oh man, like everybody is dealing with their own stuff. Every single person has got stuff that is hard. Every single person has a circumstance in their life that they wish was different. And hopefully the more that we align our lives with our capital S self, our essential self, our true self, the more that we feel good about being in our own life and less comparing it to other people, because like we really just love our lives. But this, I think this might be something that is always a temptation, is to look at the lives that other people have and only notice where yours is lacking. So, I mean, a great way to combat this is to take up a gratitude practice for sure. For sure. So, if you're feeling stuck because you're comparing yourself to others, whether you feel stuck financially and it looks like other people are making millions working from home 4 hours a week, which is not true, by the way, ever. um, if you're feeling stuck because you're comparing yourself to others, maybe take a peek at if how you view other people is realistic, and to take up a gratitude practice where you pay attention to the things that you are really very grateful for in your own life. And that can help you feel less stuck. So, I mean, I guess some of this episode ended up being a little bit of like how to get unstuck, but it's more about the feelings of stuckness and our relationship to our feelings, to our relationship to how we feel about being in our lives, to our relationship to sometimes feeling like victims of our circumstances, sometimes feeling like there's nothing that I can do about how shitty this circumstance is right now. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes you can't do anything because we know that you can't control other people, right? And other people are the source of all of our shitty problems, apparently. It can't be ourselves. Yeah. Anyway, so when it comes to feeling stuck, here's the thing that is my mantra when I feel stuck. I definitely can evaluate my feelings of stuckness through all these 7 different ways of thinking about stuckness. I'll read them again for you, and then I will tell you what my mantra is for when I feel stuck. Number 1 is, can you just let yourself be stuck for now? Can you just sit in it? Can you let yourself be stuck? Number 2, can you believe that it's not forever? The feelings of stuckness will end, cycles. Number 3, can you make a small change, even if it's unrelated to the area you feel stuck in? Tiny little change. Number 4, can you actually do something about your stuckness, but you're afraid? And again, not that you have to change it, but just understanding that you're changing your relationship to the fear that you feel of what would be required to get out of this state of stuckness. Number 4. Number 5, is it not so much that you're stuck as it is something you need to say that's stuck, or paying attention to where stuckness feels in your body and trying to adopt practices to move that emotion. And number 6, do you know how to get unstuck, but you don't feel like you can? So maybe recognizing that you can change your relationship to stuckness right now because you are choosing in this moment to stay stuck for now. And number 7, do you feel stuck because you're comparing yourself to others? Okay, so those are the 7 ways to change the way that you think about stuckness, change your relationship to the feeling of stuckness in your own life. And here's my mantra when I'm feeling stuck. Help me be present. Help me be present. Oftentimes when I'm feeling stuck, it's because I feel a sense of that there's something that is ahead of me that I want, and I cannot move towards it, that something is blocking me, that something is paralyzing me, that something is getting in my way. I cannot get that thing, and I feel stuck where I am right now. So the mantra, help me be present, helps me remember that this moment is the only one that actually exists. So the thing that I feel blocked from is not a guarantee. It's also not a guarantee that it's better over there than it is here. The thing that I am feeling blocked from, or the general sense of stuckness that I have, can I just allow myself to be so very present in this moment? Can I allow myself to, this feels really counterintuitive, but can I just allow myself to enjoy feeling stuck And I know that sounds counterintuitive because it's like, who's going to enjoy that? Who enjoys feeling shitty? Who enjoys feeling awful? But what I mean by that is just the delighting in the crazy fact that we are here right now with this body that enables us to feel things like feeling stuck. And the funny thing about that is like, oh, this is going a little off topic, but I'll share this with you because I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Like we have a lot of messages that tell us like, okay, stop feeling sorry for yourself. And, I had to make up my mind that I wasn't going to let my circumstances determine how I was going to be. And it's like it's the hero's journey. It's the hero saga. And I think that is all true. And God, sometimes just allow yourself to feel as sorry for yourself as you possibly can. Like allow yourself to be like really like roll in the mud of woe is me, really like bask in how good it feels, kind of to just feel like the world is falling apart and feel like you're going to feel like this forever and everything sucks and nothing's going my way. And God, this is awful. Okay. Allow yourself to feel that. It's almost like, oh man, when I was a kid, my dad used to say, when I would get angry, he would say, tell me how long you're going to be angry. And he would make me tell him like a number of minutes. This is how many minutes I'm going to be mad. And usually, because I'm a smartass, I would say something like 3 days, or, maybe if I wasn't being that much of a smartass, I would say an hour and a half. And I would get furious because he would go and set a timer. And I think in hindsight now as an adult, I think probably the better way to approach it is to say, be as mad as you need to be right now, and we're going to see how long it lasts. Let's time it and see how long it lasts. Instead of putting a time limit on the anger, because there's something about like repressing how we feel that seems to extend it. It seems to stretch it out. And so when I talk about like wallowing in the misery of, if our life is so terrible, like just, oh man, allow yourself really to wallow in it. Like get it all the way out. Because what I have found in my own experience has been, if I allow myself to do that, I get over it so much more quickly. It's like if I suppress that, repress that feeling, and I keep it down stuck inside, it just kind of festers and it like just gets strung along. If I let myself like really just be so mad or sad or whatever, I mean, it's a pretty short fuse. It's pretty fast burning. And how that ties into what I'm saying about like, help me be present. Like, help me be present for this delicious human experience of being able to feel everything that I feel. And would it be great if I felt amazing things all the time and I never felt sad or I never felt stuck? I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is to say yes, but on the more I think about it, the more I think, no, I think that would be kind of terrible, actually. I think what is so wonderful about being human is the many flavors of emotion that we have the opportunity to experience. And we don't need to run away from any of them. And so when we're feeling stuck, like, okay, like sit with yourself and be like, what does stuck feel like? Where does stuck feel in my body? Oh God, that sucks. Like it hurt. It feels stuck in my kidneys. It hurts really bad. I don't like it. It feels stuck in my throat. This is terrible. Allow yourself to feel all the way what it feels like. And it's almost like, it's almost like if you tell a kid, yeah, go ahead and eat as much Halloween candy as you want right now, they kind of get sick of it pretty quickly, It's like, will I allow myself to indulge in this little pity party for myself right now? Yes, I say yes. Go ahead, indulge. And then pretty quickly, you're going to get tired of it and you're going to move on to more interesting things. So when you're feeling stuck, just, God, let yourself feel stuck, Let let yourself be like, man, this is terrible and I don't want to do this anymore. And this feels awful. And why is it like this? And I'm pretty sure it's going to be like this forever. Let yourself feel it all the way. And then you can start to apply these 7 different ways to think about stuckness. Ah, what a delightful, amazing, terrible, hard, difficult, wonderful thing it is to be human and to have this body that gets to feel all the things. Okay, that's it for this week. I'm so glad to be back. So glad to be back and talking with you about things like this. Before I go, I will invite you again to join my email list, morganmotsinger.com/subscribe. I'll also put it in the notes for this episode, of course. And then I also want to let you know that I don't talk very much here about what I do outside of this podcast and social media. But if you are looking for someone to come and speak with your clients, whether it's at a corporate training or a private retreat, about things like resilience, about mindset, about, I mean, I'll label it as self-improvement, but it's really like, we're not going to improve the self. We're just going to pull off the layers to help you get back to the self. I am available to speak at those things. So before we go, as always, P.S. We expire.